for our feature presentation.
He'll be fine on the mountain.
JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Line drive right field, base hit. South Carolina wins the College World Series. Watson, touchdown. Hunter Renfrow. He got him, and it's all over. Coastal Carolina rules the roost. They win the championship. And South Carolina has won the national championship.
The Citadel baseball team has done it again, but this time the Bulldogs beat one of the top teams in the country. They are giant killers. Get the ball to Bennett. He does.
Gamecocks are in the Final Four.
All right, greetings and a good Tuesday afternoon, and welcome aboard the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online. Very proudly presented by Motley Rice and driven by Stokes Volkswagen. Find them at stokesvw.com. Head to motleyrice.com as well if you've been impacted by faulty Takata airbags. You can find us on the JB and Goldwater app, and you can always head to jbandgoldwatershow.com. Make sure you follow us on social media at JB and Goldwater, individually at Sports Media JB, and at Darren Goldwater. The Share Healthcare chat lines are available. Make sure you head anywhere, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. You can comment there. You can always text us at 843-321-8893 as well. And Darren will make sure that your comments are a part of our program, just like Mike Morgan will be in about 25 minutes or so. The great voice of the SEC network and with ESPN. He called the LSU game this weekend. I think he's got Kentucky this upcoming weekend, but there sure is a lot to discuss in the college football world with him. A lot of that, of course, will be in the SEC. We have Keith Allsep at 1:20 today, the host of the Locked On the Gamecocks podcast. We will kind of be going over, well, we'll definitely be going over the ECU game and looking to the Georgia game, but Shane Beamer meets with the media at 1:15 as well, and so a lot of what he will say today we will discuss in that segment. Maybe we'll get an update on Luke Doty as to whether he is going to start or get some playing time or not this weekend against the Dogs. A thriller last night in Monday Night Football that we'll lead off with here in just a moment. And obviously the big news yesterday, Darren, as it pertained to college football was Clay Helton being let go out at Southern Cal. So all that, we'll mix in some Braves. Clemson, they've got some issues with the offensive line to deal with. C.J. Spiller and Lynn J. Dixon apparently still aren't on the same page, and we'll try to lump it all in here over the next couple of hours. But good afternoon to you, my friend.
It is a good afternoon. It's been, as they say in the South, a minute since I've been to the gym, but I'm back. I never stopped paying because I always wanted that kick in the behind to remind me that I'm not there. So I went back. And I'm finally, but it's been a road to recovery, if you will. I'm finally at the point where I was like, you know what? It's time. So I went back to the gym this morning. I feel great. I won't be able to move in a couple hours. I certainly won't be able to move tomorrow.
No,
but it's a good day.
That's true. Yeah. You're done. It's over. I hope you can move on Friday. You got a game to call Friday night. So
I don't need to move. I just need to talk. That's it.
You just need to get there.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Well, what gym?
Planet Fitness, not too far from here.
All right.
Yep.
Well, good luck to you and your bod, and
thanks. Thanks you.
You're getting in shape just before the holiday seasons start arriving. I always gain weight starting in like October because it cools down. You got just the the sweets and the that season and the tailgate food and then you look in the mirror in January and you're like, boy. That's why instead of hiring a lawn service, I just cut my grass all summer because that's part of my
that was part of the restoration process. Like that's what got me on the path, was dealing with nonsense in the yard continuously.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, well, now there's not as much to do in the yard. So now what?
That's
I
right.
guess I got to go to the gym.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I know. I love driving by the gym myself. All right. Last night, Ravens lost to the Raiders beat the Ravens. Tongue twister there, man. That was, I was kind of in and out of the ball game. I was watching that and a new show on Showtime called American Rust that I had DVR'd, and I was kind of going back and forth, and then I finally just said, "Forget it, I'll come back to the show because this is something." What a finish last night in the ball game. That was a neat atmosphere out there in Vegas. I think it's the first time they've actually had all the fans in there, and boy, did they! And then all the state ties. I that's what I enjoy the most about the NFL. I love watching the kids that I've watched play get it done at that level. I just pulled up the stat box here so I could make sure that I don't miss anybody. But on the Baltimore side of things, former Carolina tailback and Sumter native Tyson Williams, 9 carries, 65 yards, and he had the 35-yarder that he took to the house earlier in the ball game. He also had 3 catches for 29 yards. Former Clemson receiver and new Ravens Sammy Watkins had 4 catches for 96 last night. One of those went for almost 50. And then, of course, on the other side, you had Hunter Renfrow was 6 for 70, and you had Brian Edwards really heat up towards the end of the game, 4 catches for 81 yards. So that was just, I like following those guys. That was really neat to see, and a great game, Darren. Monday Night Football probably couldn't have asked for more for their ratings for the rest of the season. A thriller.
Yeah, it'll probably be rated well. And yes, the fans, it was the first time they were there. One of our good friends, one of the first people I knew moving down here, really, his wife, and his son, big Raider fans. They were out there. So it looked like they had a heck of a time. Did you watch any of the Peyton and Eli?
I didn't. I forgot it was on. How was it?
So I need to go back and watch some of the later portions of it. Very disappointing early on. At least that's what I thought. It's getting good reviews today, but it's mostly because it got better as it went along. I gave up on it because they didn't shut up. I mean, it was nonstop, just this, I wouldn't even call it humor. They were just bantering back, and it was very awkward, and I couldn't take it. So I lasted a couple of minutes. I was like, that's it. But I'm going to go back and watch a little bit more towards the end just to see, because a couple of the sports media guys who I really respect have given it high grade. So maybe I overlooked it. Maybe I jumped off it too quickly. But it's something I was looking forward to, because Peyton and both of them can be stars in the business if they want to. They just don't want to be in the booth. That's why they're doing this.
Yeah, I did see one clip of Eli at the end of the game, like, what are they doing? That was when they ran the field goal team out there, and then there's a delay of game, and they had to run them back off, and then they had to go run a play. Of course, they threw a touchdown, and it all worked out. But, yeah, I didn't see it. Are they going to be doing that every Monday?
8 times. I think it's 8. It might be 10. But it's not every Monday Night Football, but it is about half of them.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I didn't see it. But what a great game. Man, that was great. That was a lot of fun to watch. And my wife and kids left for Virginia yesterday, so I was just sitting there by myself. Usually I'm in bed by like 9, and nobody was here last night. I was like, I guess I'll just sit up and watch football. So that's what I did.
Speaking of Showtime, though, Billions is back.
Yeah,
and
I saw it.
When you said Showtime, that reminds me I need to watch the next episode of the latest release.
Yeah, I saw that. I gotta get caught up and get back on the bandwagon with Billions, but I'm still waiting. When's Ozark coming back out? I mean, what's going on here? I mean, come on, guys! It's been like 2 years or something, more than that.
I have no idea. It's been a while.
12:09 on this Tuesday afternoon, 20 minutes away from Mike Morgan with ESPN and the SEC Network. Craig, I see your note there about that 2018 team. It's so funny that you sent that, because last night in watching this game, I sent a screenshot of the 2018 South Carolina depth chart to my little text group with my cousins and said, how did this team only win 6 games? Unbelievable. So we're gonna come back to that here in just a little bit, I assure you. But the other USC, yes, the other USC, because in this state USC is South Carolina. They fired their coach yesterday. 2 games into the season, Clay Helton is gone. I think his buyout's around $9 million. So financially, he's probably going to be okay, I would imagine. So the first question I had with this was, why not just do it in the off season? If it was if I missed something, step in where you can here, Darren. Maybe I missed a financial deadline that was going to save him a bunch of money or something. I'm not sure. But if you were just going to fire him after he lost his first game, regardless maybe what that looked like, I'm not exactly sure why they wouldn't have done it before the season.
That was my initial reaction was, oh my God, we're 2 games in. I get it. You lost to Stanford, but 2 games in. And then after calming down a minute, this has been boiling, right? This has been a consistent talking point. When the new athletic director got there, he has given them, Southern Cal, everything they can possibly imagine financially, recruiting wise. They have built this thing to a point of, if Clay Helton can't do it, somebody else can come in and hopefully do it. And then when the Stanford loss happened, the outrage was palpable and it was everywhere. It didn't matter where you turned. It was, Clay Helton's going to be gone. And if it's not now, it's going to be at the end of the year. It is over. So I think they had to make the change. I think the change had to happen now because you knew this was inevitable. You knew this is where it was going. Get out in front of this. The only problem is, from the rest of the college football landscape perspective, this is now a talking point for the rest of the year because no coach is going to say, yeah, I'm going to Southern Cal. They've only played 2 games. They're not jumping ship on their team yet. They've only played 2. So there will be rumors and there will be coaches tied and there will be, I'm staying, and coaches leveraging things for better contracts. Everything you typically see, it's going to drag out. It's going to drag out for the entire year.
Yeah, I know there's some names that have surfaced. We'll get to that in a minute. What I didn't realize until last night was that Clay Helton, in his first 2 full seasons as the head coach of the Trojans, was the winningest coach ever in the history of that program in his first 2 full years. 21 total wins. He was 21-6 in those 2 seasons with a Rose Bowl win and a Cotton Bowl loss, and a combined
Sam Darnold.
And Sam Darnold, yeah, and a combined 15-3 in the Pac-12. I also wonder if maybe the emergence of UCLA early in the season helped kind of push this, like, whoa, no, we're not going to let them hop over us here as well. I don't have the answer to that question. I'm not an expert, but I didn't like it. I didn't agree with the move at all. They went 5-1 last year in a shortened season. 5-1 in the Pac-12 wasn't very good. And maybe it's better this year. It appears to be, at least. Oregon certainly with a statement over the weekend against Ohio State. And I don't know. Here's what I don't understand. Unless there's more of an issue going on, which there very well may be. Maybe he's lost some of the locker room. It's just not clicking. There's a lot of those type things that go into these decisions, and we don't ever really truly know when these decisions are made. But if that wasn't the case, I don't really think you gain anything, Darren, by firing a guy after 2 games as opposed to maybe after 7 or 8 games. If you go out there and you're 4-4 or you're 3-5 or 5-3 or whatever it is, which is none of that's acceptable to Southern Cal. I'm not sure what you gain by getting this far out in front of it. I would think, if anything, if the locker room wasn't divided, it might be now moving forward. So we'll just have to kind of see how it unfolds. But 10-3, 11-3, and then they struggled in 2018. They went 5-7. They rebounded in 2019 to go 8-5, and then last year 5-1. I would just like to see how it played out a little bit more. I thought that they pulled the trigger too fast.
Those close to the program, we're going to have Matt Zemek on from Trojans Wire. He's going to be on with us on Thursday. Those close with the program will tell you, and it's in a lot of different articles that are out there right now, that with all the resources, with the talent, that there wasn't a consistent physicality. There wasn't a consistent aggression in practice, and these guys just simply weren't prepared to play. A lot of this, to me, there is while he had a little more success than Muschamp, there's a feeling of Muschamp similar. It's not that he's a bad guy. Clay Helton is largely liked. He is largely thought of as a good dude.
Yeah.
But the product on the field wasn't there, and the resources were. So, and the fan base was eroding. I mean, it was a prop. There's nobody going to those games. And if they didn't make this move, whatever less than nobody is, that's who was going to their games moving forward. So I understand the move. My initial reaction was surprise. I was also surprised when I checked out his overall record at 46-24 was his overall record. So that surprised me. But I think the big picture, we've got a new AD in place for 2 years now, right about 2 years. We being Southern Cal, that this is going to be a championship program. We will be back at the championship level. And this is a move to say we're serious about that. And I get it. It's a lost year already at this point, and it's pretty logical. So cut ties now, make the move now, rejuvenate the fan base now, and then see how you can go through the process.
The next question, obviously, is who are the candidates? I saw Pete Thamel's report yesterday. I know James Franklin was on that list. I think Luke Fickell was on that list. Mario Cristobal was on that list. Tony Elliott was actually on that list. Who am I missing? I'm missing somebody.
Everybody, right? Matt Campbell is on that list. Campbell. It's pretty much a list of if you're not Dabo and you're not Saban, okay, like game on.
Yeah, it is. I saw also the Bob Stoops name floated. Guys, Bob Stoops ain't going to Southern Cal. I don't care who says it. He's not going to Southern Cal. I don't think James Franklin's going to Southern Cal. I get this is maybe a once in a lifetime type of opportunity. I understand all of that. But whatever kind of running through the list here, whatever money that Southern Cal would want to throw at James Franklin, they got it in Happy Valley. So, I don't know that there's going to be any more of a reason for a guy like Franklin to leave Penn State, Darren, and go across the country to Southern Cal, where 3 straight coaches have been fired in the middle of the season. Now, the Sarkisian situation was a little different, and I understand that. But, if you're a guy like James Franklin, if you're a guy like Mario Cristobal, the allure of that job is there. It's a bright, shiny object. It is a diamond sitting on a hill. I understand it, but are you going to be better off taking that job? I don't see it. Now, I think that Matt Campbell, if they could get him, I mean, that's a home run. I don't know. I mean, if you're Matt Campbell and you turn down Southern Cal, clearly you want to stay where you are, or you just want to go to the NFL. I mean,
well, he was in the running for Texas, right? Or at least Texas wanted Matt Campbell. Everybody wanted Matt Campbell. He was on the list, but he stayed. I think Matt Campbell, in the back of his mind, I've said this over and over again, I think he wants the NFL. He's already flirted with it and gotten very far down the road. I think he wants the NFL. He's also never beaten Iowa. I think the home run hire is Cristobal from Oregon. But are you going to pull him away from Nike? Are you going to pull him away from the Oregon dollars and what he has built there? Right. Would Franklin go? I don't know. His name has been popping up regularly as well. And after last year, the fan base wasn't very happy. So you could easily see a scenario where Franklin says, you know what, get out before they get you. But now with Penn State turning the corner, I don't know. I think this is one of those jobs. And if the facilities and the money and the resources are what everybody is reporting them to be, like national championship caliber level, then this is one of those few jobs that it is very, very hard to say no to unless you're very happy and comfortable where you are. I think Franklin is that. I think Tony Elliott is that. He's also a Southern Cal guy. So I don't know. It'll be interesting, and we're going to hear rumors for months.
Yeah, I don't see Tony Elliott, Darren. I think they got to hire a guy with head coaching experience out there. We talk about satisfying the fan base. That ain't going to do it. I like Tony Elliott, and I think he's going to be a head coach sooner than later. That's not going to do it out there. I think the other thing will be interesting to watch, and I'm not exactly sure how much of this will be public, but how influential will the alumni be in this hire? I'm talking about the big-time football alumni that have national platforms. Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush, obviously from that era, and there are just, I mean, there's dozens of them out there that are all over the country, on TV, on radio every day. People who have a lot of pull within the athletics department and who give a lot of money And, I'll be anxious to see what they have to say about this and who their picks are. I'm sure some of these guys are going to be asked, and they're going to have opinions on national television. And that's going to be part of this conversation, as you just mentioned, over the next few months. Matt Campbell, I agree with you. I think he's an NFL guy, but who am I to say anything? I mean, he's probably one of the top guys you need to go after. And I'll tell you what, man, I get it. There's a change coming in the next couple of years, which would be is going to be beneficial. But Luke Fickell at Cincinnati might be the guy that you circle. I mean, he really might be it if you can get him. Cincinnati's also going to be a member of the Big 12 in the next couple of years. So I don't know how he weighs that.
Well, the AD at Southern Cal is the one who hired Luke Fickell at Cincinnati. So right. there is that tie that's pretty obvious there. I was listening this morning, and I haven't done this yet. Actually, his show may have started yesterday. Kellerman, I think, just jumped into ESPN Radio's morning slot yesterday. But he's on with Keyshawn Johnson, speaking of notable Southern Cal alums. So I listened a little bit this morning. Keyshawn is over the moon excited that this move has been made. And he is very, very vocal about the type of person, type of coach that he wants in there, and the program that Southern Cal once was and in his eyes should be again. How influential will he be in the process? How influential with other, like when closer to home, when South Carolina went through this process, we know there were many, many former players who were lobbying behind the scenes for Shane Beamer. There were some lobbying for others, but there were many behind the scenes lobbying. How much weight do those Southern Cal guys have behind the scenes? How much weight does Reggie Bush and Leinart and Keyshawn, how much weight do they have, and who they throwing their weight behind? That's a big two-question thing to ask.
Yeah, it's huge, and the difference in the South Carolina situation is all those guys didn't have national TV platforms to say what they wanted to say. They do out in Southern Cal. I'm going to ask Mike Morgan this question coming up here in just a minute, but what type of job is this? And before you say, oh, this is one of the best jobs in the country, before we say that, let's remember that money has influenced coaching searches in ways different than we may have thought. There was a time where everybody sought out the, quote, best jobs in the country, but money now has changed a lot of that. Guys are happy where they are because they're financially they're being paid what they feel like they are owed or should be paid, or the school that they're at can afford to pay, just like some of these top tier programs can. So before we say, oh, it's one of the best jobs in the country, really truly think about it. Is it one of the best jobs in the country? Top 5, top 10, top 25? Where does it land?
It's a good question, because LA, California, is a pro sports town. It's a pro sports state.
That's right.
There are lots of those. If you're the guy who can get Southern Cal back to that level, it's a hell of a job. And it is a top 5 job. And it is a once-in-a-lifetime thing. If you're not, then you hang out in anonymity almost. I mean, you're getting overlooked by everything else that's going on in the state of California in professional sports, all of them, not just football, all professional sports. So it can be one of the great jobs. Absolutely. And the person who takes it will believe that. But if you're not the guy who's going to win, then Southern Cal is going to just spin its wheels for a couple more years until they find that next guy.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, to compare and contrast a little bit, think about it this way. All right, if you take a job in the SEC, one of the old school Southern institutions, what do you like? Georgia, Bama, Auburn. I mean, realistically, I'd say outside of Vanderbilt, can throw in Missouri, can throw anybody into this. South Carolina, Kentucky, Tennessee, Florida. They all have one thing. Influential, behind the scenes boosters. Mm-hmm. All of them. You got to know how to deal with these people. You're going to get a call from a guy who gives $1 million a year that says, I'm not happy, and here's why. or the AD is going to get that call, and how is that handled? That in the Southeastern Conference, and obviously clearly at other schools across the country, but I'm just for the purpose of the conversation, we can understand this here in the state of South Carolina. Very behind the scenes type influential boosters who have a lot of pull in decisions that we don't ever see. Out there, you have to be able to deal with the spotlight. You have to be able to deal with the red carpet. You have to be able to deal with these are influential people, but they stand up on TV and in newspapers and radio shows. They tell you that they are, and they tell you who they are, and they tell you what they are planning to do. You have to be able to manage that in a public light. And if you can't, you don't fit.
Yep.
And that's one of the things that I think probably affected a guy like Clay Helton. He was not and he is not a flashy Southern Cal type dude. He's a football coach, and he wants to focus on his players, on the field. Nice guy, great guy. The statement yesterday, he can't fire anybody nicer than that. But is he the guy who is able to manage all this when Keyshawn Johnson calls you and then goes on TV and talks about the phone call you just had? You have to be able to manage that. And then these guys, they talk to the team. So Keyshawn Johnson or Reggie Bush comes in and talks to the players and then goes to the coach and says, "Coach, you really need to play this game." You have to – there's a different management system in a place like Southern Cal than there is in a place like Alabama, where a lot of that stuff happens behind closed doors. Now, Nick Saban can tell a lot of them to go F themselves because he's Nick Saban. But that's not always the case, right? So, when we talk about being able to manage these type of situations, they're totally different when you compare the limelight and the spotlight. I mean, you know what I'm talking about, Darren. Went back in the day, and even now, if Southern Cal got glitzy and glamoury again, they were really good, and you're watching them on ABC at 8 o'clock primetime ball game, they're going to go to the sidelines, and you're going to see celebrity after celebrity after celebrity after celebrity, right? And this ain't just like Matthew McConaughey who's like, yeah, hook 'em, right on, all right. These are guys who are like, I want access to the locker room.
Mm-hmm.
I want to come in at halftime. I want a drink of water, and you're going to go get it for me because my name is Will Ferrell. So it's a different system.
That's why I think the names that you're seeing, and we're going to see a ton of them, there's a personality element to these names, and you have to be able to manage it. You have to. If you can't, you're going to get swallowed up, and you don't have a chance of winning, because then, like you said, these other guys who are hanging around the program, they start to run your program. And once that happens, you're in a bad.
Oh.
I mean, look, Nick Saban has all the alums in the world with the influence to come in and run that program, but he isn't having that. And there's no way that's ever going to happen down there. You have to be able to insulate yourself to some degree, but how much can you actually do it with the glitz of LA and Southern Cal and the alums and the celebrities who tie themselves to Southern Cal? How much can you really shut all of that out? And if you're not shutting it out, how can you embrace it, make it a part of who you are, and make that a foundation that builds you stronger? I mean, that's a unique trait to be able to embrace and use in a positive way.
Absolutely. I agree with Craig. I think it's a top 10, top 15 type job, somewhere in there, and has opportunity to probably be a little bit better. All right, let's hit a timeout. When we return, Mike Morgan with ESPN and the SEC Network joins us right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, very proudly presented by Motley Rice.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road. You know what happens when you sell record numbers of new vehicles? That's right. We take in record numbers of local trades. Despite what the news is saying, quality pre-owned vehicles really aren't that hard to find. You just need to know where to look. Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate and on the web at stokesvw.com. We've got over 1,200 pre-owned cars, trucks, SUVs, and all at a fraction of the price when new. Every vehicle has been inspected and reconditioned, many with the balance of factory warranty. Best of all, at Stokes Volkswagen, you don't need the perfect credit to get approved for a quality pre-owned vehicle. And we'll take any trade in any condition, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Don't forget, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy a car from us. You're going to love our pre-owned selection, I guarantee it. So come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW. Negative trade equity financed a new loan, subject to lender approval.
People don't like to get stuck in traffic, stuck in the mud, stuck at work, and two others you probably don't think much about: stuck with a big medical bill or stuck with a healthcare program that doesn't fit who you are. Experience true medical freedom with Share Healthcare. More affordable, more options, user-friendly, and biblically sound. You can join right now. Explore a new way to show you care with Share Healthcare. Join us today at sharehealthcare.com. sharehealthcare.com.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
You hear me talk about Dog and Duck all the time, and there's no other place I'm going to watch my college and NFL than the Dog and Duck. They have 3 locations: Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road. They have specials all football season long, like $12 pitchers of their own D2 brew, $5 pints of Sierra Nevada, weekly pick'em sheets with prizes, and the best wings in town, bar none. For all your football, college, and NFL, the Dog and Duck, Clements Ferry Road, Bell Hall, and Park West.
Motley Rice LLC is a law firm with international reach, but it hasn't lost its Carolina roots. The Motley Rice team fights every day for people harmed by products including asbestos and talc exposure, medical drugs and devices, and also catastrophic injuries and auto recalls, including dangerous Takata airbags. Motley Rice is headquartered in Mount Pleasant at 28 Bridgeside Boulevard. Visit motleyrice.com. Thank you, Motley Rice, for supporting the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show.
Hey, South Carolina, what's going on? This is Patrick Davis, and you are listening to my friends JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
All right, 12:32. Sorry. God bless my wife. She's in the middle of a 7.5-hour trip to Virginia, and she said, I'm 15 minutes out, and I couldn't do it anymore. I had to pull over and let the kids run around on the side of the road. So, yeah. Oh, God. I tell you what, real quick before we get Mike in, he probably never has this problem because ESPN would not allow this. I booked a hotel room for her about halfway through the trip last night. Radisson, a nice place. Finally got there about 11 o'clock, checked in, hair on the floor, bugs, stunk, bad carpet. Had to get her out of there, and she had to go find another hotel room with two two-year-old twin girls screaming at 11:30 at night. So,
that sounds awesome.
Yeah, we got a refund too, just as an FYI. That doesn't happen to guys like Mike Morgan. They got red carpet and beer and all kinds of stuff. What's up, man?
His
I think we're
Mike,
Mike,
unmute your mic.
Yeah, cut your mic on there, pal.
Have we used a mic before?
Yeah, it's still not.
It's not working.
Don't let this happen in the broadcast on Saturday, Mike. It's got to be.
It says your mic's not connected on my end.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, let's see.
We'll let him get that. That. Nope. There's still no check. Hey, hello.
Okay, like I was saying before, I was technical difficulty. I don't know what you've heard, but I have had every hotel nightmare. I'll just give you a quick one that happened last week. So I booked my hotel for Baton Rouge as soon as I found out I was on the game 2 weeks beforehand. Usually it's about a 9-day window, but I get 2 days before my flight to Baton Rouge, I get an email from the head of the hotel, same hotel we stay at ESPN all the time. Sorry, the first responders need extra time in Baton Rouge. Here's the copy of the letter for FEMA. We have the right to kick you out. Goodbye. Like that was it. Like, no, hey, we made a phone call to some other Hilton properties and here's what we found you instead. Or it was just nada. And then I started looking on, you couldn't find a hotel within 100 miles
Whoa.
of Death Valley.
Oh.
So then I had to book something on Airbnb. God only knows how shady this place was going to be. But I booked it for 2 nights, still had nowhere to stay my third night. I was going to probably bunk up with my spotter, who is a good man and I like him, but I really don't want to share a bedroom with him. and then the last moment, the guy comes back and says, or the lady comes back and says, "Oh, I didn't know you were the Mike with ESPN. I'm sorry. We'll get you your room. We've asked some first responders to double up." Well, now I feel guilty that the first responders are being forced to double up. Like, I don't want that on my conscience. Anyway, that kind of stuff happens all the time. Screaming babies. And here's the thing. I'm like Larry David in this respect. The one thing that aggravates me more is just people who are inconsiderate. And I know it shouldn't bother me as much as it does, but it does. If you're in a hotel, there's the metal door lock above the actual lock, right? It's just a latch.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people will move that latch up, open the door, and that way the door won't close behind them, like when they're moving in furniture or what have you.
Boom.
If you do that, don't just let the door slam against the latch at like 3 a.m. or noon or 8 a.m. because people are sleeping at all times at a hotel, right? We're all out of our normal rhythm. It's the most inconsiderate. Like, it is the loudest noise, and they just do. And some of them will just do it 20 times. Don't. It's like, come on, man,
dude. I'm
have
totally
a little
agree.
compassion for your other people. You don't own the hotel. There's 300 rooms here. Other people are staying here besides you. Okay,
Totally. I totally agree with that. That is one of my ultimate pet. That and people driving slow in the left lane. I'm like, I want to slam the door on you.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree. I agree.
Yeah. I could give you a whole lot of hotel etiquette faux pas that I encounter, and I've stayed in enough of them where it's just like, come on, people, have a little decency. That's all we're asking. Not a lot, just a little.
If you want to enjoy the game tomorrow night, you better make sure I get my sleep.
Yeah,
I will bury this broadcast.
A lot of these people, they don't care.
No.
And sometimes the maids will do that too. As they're cleaning rooms, they'll put the latch up and they'll just keep swinging the door open and just letting it go boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
Boom, boom. It changed the towels. Boom, boom. Like, come on.
Yeah, they
can't do that. That's just not right.
Nice ricochet effect as it boom, 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 boom.
Oh, yeah. It's never just one boom. It's boom, 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 boom. After the 12th time I've had it, like, I'm walking out.
Don't you have enough towels?
Yeah. I'm like Costanza and Seinfeld. We're living in a society here. Anyway, how are you?
Oh, hey, heck, we're good. Just living the dream.
Living the dream.
I'm a bachelor this week, so I'm just kind of hanging in there. Getting ready to watch a bunch of football this week by myself. Watched Monday Night Football last night by myself. I don't think I'm gonna miss a game now. I got a whole week to watch. I literally woke up this morning. I was like, oh God, I gotta go feed the cow. I don't have to feed the kids. Don't have to do anything. I don't have to do anything. Oh my God, I got up and enjoyed coffee.
You watched the whole game?
I was in and out. There's a new show on Showtime called American Rust that I had DVR'd, and I wanted to watch that. So
what is that about?
It's Jeff Daniels, actually.
Yeah.
And he's not like Harry. He's not Harry Dunn. He's a grown-up Jeff Daniels.
Right.
And he's a cop in a small town in western Pennsylvania. And I'm not exactly sure totally what it's about yet, but he does cover up a couple of things in the first one, and he's got a relationship with a woman who's the mother of a former high school football star, and he does some shady stuff that he kind of
Okay, I'm with you.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Okay, well, so Darren, did you see at least the fourth quarter, the end of the game?
Oh, I saw that. Yeah.
You saw that.
I saw the highlights of
Saw the
that.
highlight.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I told James the thing I was most interested in was to hear Peyton and Eli, and I tuned in and I tuned out. And apparently it got better. Like all the sports media guys I respect have given it pretty decent grades.
I didn't give that a chance. Some people have said what you did, and then it's been a mixed bag. I'm just not that curious to hear two former quarterbacks carry a broadcast.
Yeah, and they didn't carry it. They just talked non-stop.
Yeah. I kind of can configure what I think that's going to sound like. I watched the game, and here's my one takeaway. Those two fumbles at key moments by Lamar Jackson were very dynamic.
Yeah.
They dynamically lost the game on two fumbles from their quarterback, making outstanding efforts on plays and not protecting the football, and that cost them the game.
It certainly did.
But they were dynamic fumbles on dynamic plays. We got to get the word dynamic in there. Dynamic. Have you heard that enough yet? Any quarterback that can run outside the pocket, they're dynamic.
Yeah.
Zeb Noland, dynamic.
Not dynamic.
You might be anti-dynamic.
He is anti-dynamic. He's kind of
Luke Doty is dynamic.
Yeah, still no word on whether he's going to play this weekend. I don't know. Yeah, I got a couple feelers out there. We'll see, Mike.
Look, inside sources I don't have on the ground.
I don't know. I don't know if I have them or not. If I have them, they're not responding. I do want to get to some of the other stuff in the SEC. We'd like to do that with you, but I feel like we need to start with South Carolina. I mean, Shane's going to talk to the media in a little over 30 minutes, and they're 2-0. I mean, it was a pretty ugly game the other day. I'm not sure how much you got to see. I know you had a
lot
late
of it.
game.
Yeah,
okay.
Because it was noon. So I sat in my hotel room, ordered food, and watched almost the entire game, actually.
So, I mean, look, there were ugly parts of the game. I actually rewatched some of it yesterday. I haven't gotten through all of it again, but had they not had a couple of big mistakes, I mean, that's at least a 10-point win for Carolina, if not more than that. And people are feeling a little bit different, but they did have those mistakes, Mike. And at the end of the day, though, they went on the road and they won. They're 2-0.
Well, yeah. What they couldn't have played a worse first half. What stood out to me was that was a game. It was infuriating to watch if you're a Gamecock fan. I can't imagine how infuriating it would be to watch if you're a coach and if you're Coach Beamer. But to his credit, and this would be in stark contrast, I think, to his predecessor, he just remained positive, kept everything upbeat, didn't lose his cool, didn't go over the edge, which, again, I think a lot of coaches would have. But he's like his old man. I mean, that wasn't the Frank Beamer way, and that's not the Shane Beamer way. And if you watch the game, at no point did you feel like East Carolina was the more talented team. I mean, they start off with a gadget play. It works. Carolina continually just shoots itself in the foot. and then you also have a call that I thought was clearly wrong, that should have been overturned and was not. And it was a game-changing call potentially that went ECU's way. So you had all these things, and it's like, oh my goodness, this could be
which call
disastrous.
are you talking about? Which call are you talking about?
The
fumble?
Yes, the fumble.
The carry on Joyner fumble?
Yes,
he was actually just fumble. Yeah, he was just asked about that. He was like, well, whether it was a fumble or not, you guys saw what it was. They just asked him over in Columbia.
Yeah. No, it's one of those where if they call it no fumble on the field, they don't overturn it. But because they called it a fumble on the field, the replay official uses that plausible out, which is, well, it has to be indisputable video evidence, and that always gives them kind of a way to stay with the call on the field. If we're going to have replay, you have to be willing to make the call. I almost wish, you could this is not really feasible, but you would have replay officials that would have no idea what the call was on the field. They would just have to break down the play and make the call based on what they see and not have the precondition of, oh, this is how they called it on the field. So I don't know if I'm going to overturn this unless I'm 1,000% sure. I don't like that aspect of replay, and too often officials, I believe, hide behind, well, it's a call on the field and, it's not an open and shut case, so therefore I'm going to keep it. Anyway, so I thought that was a miserable call. But, it's, again, to the bigger point, everything that could go wrong went wrong. But you never thought that ECU was the most talented team in that game, and that if Carolina could just stop with the mistakes and the carelessness, and if you could get just some better quarterback play, because let's face it, Zeb was just off early on in that game. But then everything started to come together in the second half, and they just, over time, it took all 30 minutes, but over time, the better team came through and won. And again, I know it doesn't seem like much, like nationally speaking, everybody's like, shrug of the shoulders, SEC team goes on the road and beats ECU. Who cares? I think that's a pretty big win for Shane. I really do.
Yeah.
And look, Georgia's going to be a whole other. I don't think many people at all are beating Georgia this year. I think nobody in the East beats Georgia, in my opinion. But what it does, I've got Kentucky this Saturday. That'll be Carolina's opponent the following week. It makes you feel like that's a winnable game. It makes you feel like some of these other conference games are winnable games. It makes you feel like there's some confidence there. Some guys stepped up. Some guys that, quite frankly, needed to start showing some sign. You take away that Van awful fumble, he actually stepped up. So I don't want to overstate it. I don't want to understate it, but I think it's a big win for Shane and the program.
So what's important about the game this weekend? They're 30.5-point underdogs. By the way, the largest point spread ever in this series was 2 years ago in Athens. Georgia, 24.5-point favorites. Carolina beat them.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people that think that's going to happen this year, but what is important for the Gamecocks? You already mentioned you got Kentucky, you got Troy, and then you're on the road at Tennessee, and then you got Vanderbilt. So, Mike, that's a we're going to get to Kentucky in a second. I know you've watched every minute of that Mizzou game. We're going to get there in just a minute, but that's a really, really important stretch for Carolina if they want to try to get to a bowl in Shane's first year. But what's important about this game as it pertains to that stretch?
Well, I don't know how Carolina is going to score a lot of points in this game. Georgia is going to shut down some really good offenses this year. They are that good on defense. I think this is Kirby's best defense since he's been there, and I think Carolina's going to have all kinds of problems moving the chains and getting points. But I want to see what Carolina does defensively, and I'd like to see them take a step forward defensively. They got a legit D-line, okay? That is an SEC D-line that the Gamecocks are showing, and they played really well against ECU. How do they play against Georgia? How does the secondary look? What linebacker steps up? I don't know if this is going to be a great litmus test for the Gamecock offense moving forward, quite honestly. But I really want to see what they do defensively. Because Georgia's offense is good, even if it's Stetson Bennett, who's actually quite accurate and doesn't get the credit that he should get as a guy that can play the game at this level. He's not like some Rudy kid that's just happy to be out there and the undersized quarterback. No, he's good. He's actually, for a college quarterback, he's good. But they're not unstoppable. Yeah, they've got 5-star running backs. They always have 5-star running backs. Got a couple of game-breaking receivers. They can mash up front, but I want to see what the Gamecock D looks like, and because I think that defense is going to be instrumental in the stretch you're talking about, right? So,
yeah, absolutely.
If they can hold their own against Georgia, then they can hold their own against everybody else left on the schedule.
Got to hope that the defense continues to travel like it did this past weekend. Their defensive numbers right now, they're third in the country behind Georgia, who's won in yards per game allowed. I get it. They've played Eastern Illinois, yeah. But defensively, they've been pretty impressive. All right, so you already mentioned it. Kentucky comes up in 2 weeks for the Gamecocks, but you've got them this weekend. They just beat Missouri 35-28. It was a good football game. And I think that was a really good win for Kentucky. It appears that the Levis kid is going to be pretty good for them. What I found interesting is they're not leaning on. They're still Kentucky. They're still going to run the football.
Yeah.
But he's a guy who's capable of doing what they're asking him to do. And he was 10 of 18 for 180 yards in the game with a pick and a touchdown, but it's still Rodriguez's team, basically the tailback. So what impresses you about Kentucky? And is this kind of maybe that year for Mark Stoops? We've talked about this a lot in his tenure, but is this maybe the team that you're like, okay, if it all bounces right, they could compete? I know you said nobody in the East is going to beat Georgia, and I agree with you, but they could at least compete. Maybe that gap has shrunk a little bit.
They could be second, and some people will already tell you they're the second best team in the East, depending on how Florida looks. Florida's got Bama. They got two quarterbacks. Both are good, but both are flawed, and Dan's got to figure that out. Kentucky, here's the difference between Kentucky and your older brother's Kentucky, even the 10-win team and the 8-win team, is that they actually now, for the first time since Andre Woodson, have a quarterback that can really beat you with his arm. They have a playmaking wide receiver in Wan'Dale Robinson, who transferred from Nebraska, although he's originally from Frankfurt. That is a playmaker that you have to watch on the field and plan against. So they now have the weapons in the passing game that Mark Stoops hasn't had. They just, minus Lynn Bowden, who could be a knucklehead, they have that to go along with Rodriguez, one of the most underrated running backs in the league, and the offensive line, which seemingly is good every year, and a stingy defense. That's the winning formula. And then they got a new offensive coordinator who's opened it up a little bit, and Liam Cohen, another guy from the McVay tree. So that's what makes Kentucky unique compared to even the Kentucky teams that were successful. Doesn't mean they're going to win 10 games this year. The East is better, and Kentucky doesn't sneak up on anybody anymore. But I just think they have more threats, more weapons on the offensive side of the football.
Yeah, it's an interesting football team. Defensively, I think they're pretty good. They're always going to be solid under Mark Stoops, but 52 carries for 340, 50 yards this past weekend. I mean, I don't care who you play in this league, Missouri, Vanderbilt, doesn't matter. That's a statement. And so you have to wonder, Mike, if those numbers aren't going to be there every week, but you have to wonder in games like South Carolina, Florida, Georgia, Mississippi State on the road, do those numbers translate in those games? If they do, I think they're going to win some of them.
Yeah, I mean, Stoops is always going to have his fingerprints on the offense. I don't care who the coordinator is. And if they know they can run it down your throat, that's going to be the game plan. That's what they're going to do all day long. And that's what they did against Missouri. Now, other teams that are more formidable up front than Missouri will make them pass. And in years past, that's when Kentucky showed vulnerability. And I'm not saying that I'm not ordaining Levis, Mr. Raw Banana, as all SEC first team quarterback. Yuck. What I am saying is he has the ability to do things that, quite frankly, the last few guys they've had under center just don't have. So that's the difference there. And that's, if we turn the page forward and look at the matchup with Carolina, again, I think if the Gamecocks get the quarterback situation right, they should be able to score some points against Kentucky. But what do you do defensively? I don't think Kentucky will be able to gash Carolina the way they gashed Missouri. I don't. I think it'll be more Levis is going to have to show off that arm a little bit more in that matchup than he did against Missouri. I just think Carolina is better up front and better athletically on defense than Missouri is.
I want to ask you about Arkansas to wrap up here in just a second, but real quick, which team has the best quarterback situation in the East?
Well, I think when JT Daniels is healthy, it's Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think when JT Daniels is healthy. Now, the Richardson kid from Florida makes freakish plays.
Oh.
And if he ever takes over that job, which I believe he will, and puts it all together, he's got a chance to be better than all of them. He's got the ceiling. You know, talk about the term upside. He's got more upside than any of them, but that doesn't mean that he's going to eventually become that good. Some guys with upside never reach that upside potential, but he's got some tools in that toolbox that other guys just don't have.
Yeah.
But for now, I'd say it's JT Daniels. We talked about Levis. Vandy, Tennessee. Yeah, I like Connor Bazelak. I don't know if I'm in love with the weapons around Connor Bazelak.
Agree.
That's what concerns me. Like he's not working with the same deck of cards as the other teams we're talking about. He's just not. So, you put Connor Bazelak on Georgia and he's an all-conference quarterback, no doubt. But he doesn't have those kind of weapons, and they don't have that kind of defense as Kentucky exploited. So for Connor Bazelak, you can have all the skills and be a good player, but it doesn't necessarily show up on the stat sheet or in the win column.
Absolutely. Those Florida quarterbacks are going to find out how good they are this weekend when Bama comes trotting into town. Yeah, we'll see how good you are, pal.
Yeah, Bama. Yeah, Bama's Bama. Although I think Florida can compete with Alabama. I just don't think I don't think Alabama gets a true scare in that game.
Nah,
I don't know if anybody scares them this year.
I don't think so, and I don't think it'll be Arkansas either. But Arkansas does have them on the schedule towards the end of the year. Unfortunately for them, November 20th. That is in
How about
T-Town.
the Sam Pittman story? Just for a moment, you want me to draw a parallel? Sam Pittman, what's his background? Never been a head coach.
Nope.
Never been a coordinator. Nationally, people looked at that hire, shrugged their shoulders, and said, kind of reminds you of the hire at South Carolina, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. I love that video of him and Hunter Yurachek after the game. I love you, man. I didn't know a lot about you. You didn't know a lot of me, but we know a lot about each other now. Yeah. I'm not trying to poo-poo this either, and I don't want to wash over their win. That's a dominant win over Texas. They beat them by 20 points.
They had more rushing yards than Texas had total yards.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they throttled the Longhorns. Welcome to the league, boys and girls. I hope you're excited to be in it. But I think you could also make an argument. Again, I'm not trying to wash over this. I'll give you the final couple of minutes, Mike, on the Razorbacks here. I think you could also make an argument that they might have beat the 6th or 7th best team on their schedule. I mean,
Texas is not there yet.
No, you got A&M, you got Georgia, you got Ole Miss, you got Auburn, you got Bama, you got to go to LSU. I mean, I didn't mention Mississippi State and Missouri.
Right.
One of them might be able to beat Texas. So we still need to wait and see how good of a win this is.
Yeah, this is yet another reason why the Big 12 has got to be looking at their situation. And kudos to them. I thought they picked up the right 4 teams. They made the best move they could make in a bad situation. But how long do you want a Texas team hanging around? And I think Texas is going to win games in the Big 12. But then everybody knows they just got waxed by at best, middle-of-the-pack SEC team. Got absolutely throttled. So how good does that make your league look if you're the Big 12? Yeah. Not great. Not great at all. But no, it's a great story for Arkansas. I know for a lot of the people watching, and look, I was just a kid. I didn't totally understand the magnitude of Texas, Arkansas, and I didn't grow up watching those games. But I've been around Fayetteville long enough to know how big that rivalry is, how big that game is. You cannot overstate how big that win is for that fan base. They have not had much to celebrate at all. The Chad Morris era was an absolute debacle. It'll go down as one of the worst hires in the SEC in the last 30 years. And before that, Bielema just ran out of steam and it just didn't work. So Arkansas there hadn't had much to cheer about with Arkansas football. That win exercised a lot of demons, really did. So I'm happy for that fan base.
Not predicting at all a loss against the Georgia Southern Eagles this weekend, Mike. But careful, because CBS just picked up the next one against A&M at home, 3:30.
Picked up who now?
CBS has Arkansas and Texas A&M coming up in week 4, right?
Gotcha, yeah.
At 3:30 on CBS.
Yeah.
So careful coming off the high of the Texas win. You know what's coming up next weekend in Fayetteville.
Yeah.
Don't forget, you got to play Georgia Southern this weekend. They need to.
Yeah.
I hope they're focused. I'll be anxious to see what they look like out there against the Eagles.
Right. And yeah, you as you pointed out, look, we've already had how many FCS upsets over Power 5 teams?
Did Florida State get beat by one?
Yeah, they got beat. All right.
Oh,
they got beat in the most embarrassing of fashion. The radio call of that, by the way, is priceless. If you haven't heard it,
yes, I have.
Gene Deckerhoff, who's an outstanding play-by-play guy, but the analyst William Floyd, former fullback and San Francisco 49er. I mean, the pain and frustration in his voice is priceless. But you had Washington lose to Montana. You had Vanderbilt lose to ETSU. You had Florida State lose to Jacksonville State. There's probably about a handful others. So there's no question. Like, you got to be on alert. If you're not one of the elites and you're in that next tier, you can lose to so many different teams on any given week. That's where the parity is. The parity's not at the top in college football. It's anything but. I mean, it's painfully predictable where we are in college football the last decade, the top teams continuing to do the same things every year. Where the unpredictability is in tier 2, tier 3, where there's truly not that much separation. And part of the equalizer has been COVID. You have guys that are in their 6th, 7th year of eligibility going up against 19 and 20-year-olds that are more talented but haven't been there. And so that has helped level the playing field. This was the perfect storm to have more and more upsets at that level.
Don't tell any of that to Southern Cal. They should be at the top. That's why you fire your coach 2 games in.
We got it, by the way, a little plug, JC and Morgan. We dropped another podcast. I guess JC dropped it this morning. We recorded it last night. But we get into that whole situation and the whole coaching search. And I tweeted about it yesterday as well. Like, you're going to see what I always talk about, okay? You're going to see the Southern Cal Mafia think they can get whoever the heck they want, and it's going to be a real cold bucket of water reality to realize you can't. What do I mean by that? Like, there's a guy right now coaching Oregon that you think you can get, but I don't think you're getting him. I've heard Bob Stoops' name.
Yeah, no.
I mean, there's just so many guys out there that you just think, well, we're Southern Cal, we can get it. And if Tennessee can't get, excuse me, that's a bad analogy. I was going to go somewhere else, but there's a number of programs that have fallen into this here of late, where they just think they can get whoever they want because they look in the mirror and they don't see the blemishes. But other people will, and other people that are happy where they are not going to race to get to Southern Cal, a program that hasn't been good since Pete Carroll. And quite frankly, before Pete, they went through a number of years where they weren't that good. So just remember what I said. Remember, because you're going to hear all kinds of crazy names that are just like pick of the litter. And I'm here to tell you, I don't think that's where they get their next coach.
I totally agree. Darren and I had this conversation earlier, and I said, if you're James Franklin, why would you leave Penn State? There's not a financial advantage. Look what you've done. Why would you do that?
Well, look at it this way. So Penn State under James Franklin was terribly disappointing last year, right?
Yeah.
One of their worst years in a while. So if they had another year like that, and I don't think they will, I think they got a good chance to win the Big Ten. I see Darren's got his Nittany Lion helmet back there.
Yeah, he's all fired up.
I see that.
He wears that thing to sleep at night.
So if they had another bad year, well, now you hire James Franklin, and Southern Cal's like, what did we get this guy for? He just had 2 bad years at Penn State. If he has a great year, then is Penn State going to lose a bidding war with Southern Cal? No. Is James Franklin a West Coast guy? No. Are you walking into an incredibly great situation where you have all these first-round draft picks all over the place that you'll inherit? No. So why is James Franklin going to leave Penn State for that job? Why are you going to leave Oregon right now for that job? There's now Bill O'Brien, who's rehabilitating his career as a consultant in Alabama. That makes sense. But that's not your huge splash name, right? I mean, that's a solid hire. I don't know if that's a Southern Cal home run hire, but you're going to see all these names that are going to be swing and a miss.
I don't know though. I want to coach anywhere that Snoop Dogg is telling me what to do while I'm on the headset on game day. God only knows what's going through his mind, if anything, at times.
Corona, a high dose of Corona and weed.
Yeah, a high dose. That's
a high dose of Corona. That's well picked.
A very high dose. All right, Mike, you got Kentucky this weekend, and
off to Lexington.
The 12 o'clock kick up there against Chattanooga. Married a Kentucky girl. It's a great fit for you this weekend. That's going to be a wonderful
She will be
time.
there. Yes, it'll be a nice little get together between everybody.
Great weekend for the future Morgans.
It is.
This is awesome because next Tuesday, guess what? Mike's going to be able to give us a full scouting report that we'll pass along to Coach Bean.
I will pass it along from start to finish, all the nuggets that you will be looking for to prepare for that game. And speaking of nuggets, Craig, I'll drink some bourbon for you. Don't you worry.
Buffalo Trace is the best distillery in Kentucky, hands down. No questions asked. Conversation's over.
Well, been there, and my future wife grew up about 5 miles from that distillery. Also been to Woodford, and I know you're a Woodford guy.
I am.
Also a very good distillery.
Well, Woodford looks like a college campus. Trace just has the history.
Old school, yeah.
Old school.
Yeah,
man.
Trace is old school. Woodford is like, woohoo. Okay.
It's got the most beautiful grass in the world.
Fancy schmancy, yeah. And I have not done Maker's Mark yet, but that's on the that's on the list. That's on the list. So is Stuart Wingo. He's on the list too for a great mortgage, construction loan, jumbo loan, new loan, refi, 803-319-1777. 803-319-1777. Save some money. You will not regret it. He will deal with you directly and does outstanding work. That's why I've worked with him 4 times. So many people in the Carolinas have done it a number of times. You will keep coming back to Stuart Wingo.
We keep coming back to you, and we're going to do it again next week, 12:30. I hope.
I'm glad you haven't fired me just yet.
No.
You haven't bumped me for one of the mascots around there.
Boomer.
Which one?
Boomer. No Oklahoma.
Nah. We're not going to do that, Mike.
All right. Well, that's good.
Safe travels to the Bluegrass State this weekend. And
absolutely.
Give our best to the Kentucky fans. We'll see them in Columbia next Saturday.
Will do. All right, guys. Take care.
Right. Thanks, Mike. There you go. Mike Morgan with ESPN and the SEC Network. All right. A late timeout. We're going to hit it now. When we return, we will check in with what Shane Beamer is saying up in Columbia. Keith Allsep will join us as well right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. Right here in our backyard is Motley Rice LLC, a law firm that hasn't lost its Carolina roots. The Motley Rice team fights every day for South Carolinians who were injured while traveling by plane or bus, harmed by medical drugs and devices, or burdened by dangerous auto recalls, including Takata airbags. Motley Rice is headquartered in Mount Pleasant at 28 Bridgeside Boulevard. We are honored to have Motley Rice as a sponsor for the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risked their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
People don't like to get stuck in traffic, stuck in the mud, stuck at work, and 2 others you probably don't think much about, stuck with a big medical bill or stuck with a healthcare program that doesn't fit who you are. Experience true medical freedom with Share Healthcare. More affordable, more options, user-friendly, and biblically sound. You can join right now. Explore a new way to show you care with Share Healthcare. Join us today at sharehealthcare.com. sharehealthcare.com.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the Links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Low Country. Our back nine is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit StonoFerryGolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The Links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. StonoFerryGolf.com.
Hi, I'm Chris Half, Public Information Officer at the Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum. We're home of the mighty USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, Flamagore, and Vietnam experience. And we're a proud partner of the JB and Goldwater Show. We invite you and your family to come see us and enjoy a day on Charleston Harbor. Visit patriotspoint.org for more information. And now, it is my honor to present the National Anthem.
JB Goldwater Show. Live, loud, and online.
All right, final 50 minutes of the JB and Goldwater Show. Very proudly presented by Motley Rice. Motley Rice and their team fight hard every day for Americans injured while traveling by plane or by bus or affected by medical drugs and devices, affected by auto recalls such as Takata airbags. You need to head to motleyrice.com if you've been affected or you know somebody that has been. Just check out the website, motleyrice.com. So much information that you can learn about your situation or maybe a situation you don't even know about. motleyrice.com. Certainly appreciate them supporting the JB and Goldwater Show. And, of course, on Fridays, the Big Gamecock Preview Show right here on our program. JB and Darren here till 2. Keith Allsep will join us in about 8 minutes or so. Follow us on social media at JB and Goldwater, individually at Sports Media JB and at Darren Goldwater. Thanks to Mike Morgan for joining us as he does on Tuesdays in that last segment and extending himself a little bit as well. Shane Beamer will be meeting with the media coming up in just a couple of minutes, and we're going to fuss and discuss what he has to say here. We hope that you'll stick with us. We'll bring Keith into that conversation certainly as well. Braves are 4.5 games up in the East. They're back on it tonight against the Colorado Rockies, a very important stretch coming up for Atlanta. This game is at home. This series for the Braves is at home, and they're hoping to hold on down the stretch. 76-66 is Atlanta over the Phillies. So after this, they will hit the road for the West Coast. One final road trip across the country, one final road trip period in the regular season. San Fran, Arizona, San Diego, and then back home for Philly and New York. And then that'll be it. October the 3rd is the final day of Major League Baseball's regular season, and we'll see if the Braves are in first place. The most dangerous team, by the way, right now in Major League Baseball, the Blue Jays. They are on fire, and their rotation is really darn good, and their lineup is potent. So careful. The American League East, dude, not to get too far off on us. I want to get back into football, Darren, but God, it is so good. Mm-hmm. The Rays are 8 up, and the 3 teams behind them, the Blue Jays, the Red Sox, and the Yankees, all have at least 80 wins.
Yeah.
It's September 14th.
They're all competing. There's 4 teams in a division all competing for the playoffs. I mean, it doesn't feel too long ago when the Red Sox were the story. And there was, oh, wow, the Red Sox, a lot better than we thought they were going to be. Yeah, they're still in the mix. But, yeah, that East is loaded. Shout out to Max Scherzer, right, because that didn't have time to get into the show yesterday. 19th member of the 3,000 strikeout club. He also had an immaculate inning in that game. And since he's gone to LA, he's basically been untouchable. He's got an ERA of like 0.8 in his first 8 starts with the Dodgers. I wouldn't want to mess with them at all in the playoffs. They're still, to me, despite what's going on in the American League, the Dodgers, to me, are the team to beat in the postseason.
I would agree with that. By the way, 6 teams with at least 80 wins in the American League. 4 are in the East. Just remarkable. All right, Shane Beamer has arrived at the podium, Darren, and he says that no major injuries to report from the game this past weekend against East Carolina, but Luke Doty is continuing to improve, did more today than he did yesterday. He says, quote, fully expect him and the rest of our guys to be 100% on Saturday night. That is with the exception of Ricky Sandage, who remains out, the defensive lineman for Carolina, and his issue. So we'll see what that means. Again, Luke Doty, this has kind of been strung along here. And look, I go back to not making this about me, but I make this about the person that told me this before the season that said, might want to circle that Georgia game. As to when we could get Luke back. We kind of, let that cat out of the bag a few weeks ago, and that seemingly has been right on the money. So we'll see if he's able to get on the field and go. We're going to talk to Keith coming up here in just a little bit, Darren, but I strongly believe that this offense will be a little bit different when he's in the ball game. And I've spent the last couple of days reaching out to people that know a lot more about offensive football than I have. You probably heard Barry Orth right here yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not going to rewrite the playbook, but things will change from a play calling perspective. And I think that will kind of open a little bit more up than has been opened up thus far.
And a game management perspective, because the guy under center has the ability to extend plays, has the ability to make, well, not necessarily different reads, but execute things differently off of those reads simply because he has the ability to move. The cautious thing here, and I do think this is part of the Vegas line, believing that Doty is going to play and that he hasn't played yet. I mean, the whole talk of coming into the year, great, Beamer, whatever it's going to look like with Eastern Illinois, then East Carolina. We've got, we've got some time to build up to this Georgia game. Well, Doty didn't have that time. So now his first live bullets are against arguably the best defense in college football. That is a very, very scary thing. I don't know if it's scarier than what we have been watching against that defense, but it also helps your offensive line because mistakes can get masked. They can get covered slightly because guys can make plays, because defenses have to account for somebody else who can carry the ball in the backfield. So a mobile quarterback helps at least cover up some offensive line deficiencies.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's, I think this goes back to April when spring practice was over and they said, look, Luke Doty's the start quarterback here. Mm-hmm. And if anybody kind of followed along throughout the summer without watching our program, you could probably just pay attention to what was going on. It wasn't close. And it's clear now that it's not close. That's why Zeb Nolan was in the game the whole time on Saturday. Jason Brown didn't get a crack at it. It wasn't close. It's probably still not very close if he's healthy and able to go. But if he's not, see, here's the thing. Like, there's a lot of teams, Darren, we've been watching football a long time. There's a lot of teams where when your quarterback is able to go, you get him in there because he's your best option. You got to go. Obviously, there's only one of two reasons why Luke Doty, if he is expected to, quote, be 100% and he's dressing, why he wouldn't be playing. One, he's not ready.
Yep.
From a health standpoint. It's like, I mean, like, he actually can't go play, or the game plan relies so much on his legs that it's going to backfire to even try to put him in the game. So why would you even do that? Just change the game plan and go to a guy who has to do, his skill set's a little bit different, like Zeb Nolan, which is what they've been doing. And you're just going to have to try to survive and advance with him until you can get your guy back. But obviously they're going to lean on his legs a bunch. And that's part of either the reason he's not been in there, or what they're telling us about his foot is nowhere near close to true. It's just gamesmanship, so other teams have to account for him, even if they know he's not going to play.
Yeah, I just caution. I can see a scenario very, very clearly that there's excitement. Hey, great, it's Doty, but these live bullets are flying, and they're flying really fast when it's Georgia, right? Early on in the game, I can see a scenario where it's a faster game than he's used to because he hasn't been out there in a while, and it gets away early. So the caution part of that statement is really to a fan base. Like, let's not judge him on, I haven't played yet, I'm going to get my first action, it's going to be against Georgia. If the game doesn't go well, it's not throw him to the wolves. Let's see what happens afterwards. This game has many different ways it can go very, very south.
Yeah, and you don't like what you don't want to happen in a game like this. I mean, you're trying to win the game. I'm not saying you're not. Like, you're trying to win the game. But also at times, and look, we might look up Saturday night and Luke Doty's in the starting lineup and he's good to go, and all this conversation is for naught. And hopefully that's what happens. But if he's not 100%, 110%, if you want to say that, ready to go, you want to try to win the game, but at what cost? The chance that you're going to win it, even though you're never going to say this publicly, is very minimal. And if he's good enough, he's cleared, but I don't know, and you throw him out there and something bad happens, and now you don't have him for Kentucky, Troy, Tennessee, Vanderbilt, all much more winnable games than Georgia. You just let one game maybe cost you essentially the rest of the year. And you don't want to do that. So, I'm not speculating on exactly what the case is or anything like that. But it's certainly, a topic of conversation. Speaking of conversation, we need to hit a quick timeout. Let's go ahead and take this final timeout, and then we're going to get Keith Allsep in here. We'll continue this with him, of course, the Locked on the Gamecocks podcast host. So hang tight, the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. We'll be right back. Hopefully, you won't ever need legal help for a catastrophic injury or health issues from a medical drug or device. But if you or a loved one suffers injury or loss, Motley Rice LLC is a nationally recognized law firm that is right here in Mount Pleasant at 28 Ridgeside Boulevard. Thank you, Motley Rice, for sponsoring the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show. Visit motleyrice.com for more. motleyrice.com.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road. You know what happens when you sell record numbers of new vehicles? That's right. We take in record numbers of local trades. Despite what the news is saying, quality pre-owned vehicles really aren't that hard to find. You just need to know where to look. Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate and on the web at stokesvw.com. We've got over 1,200 pre-owned cars, trucks, SUVs, and all at a fraction of the price when new. Every vehicle has been inspected and reconditioned, many with the balance of factory warranty. Best of all, at Stokes Volkswagen, you don't need perfect credit to get approved for a quality pre-owned vehicle. And we'll take any trade in any condition, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Don't forget, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy a car from us. You're going to love our pre-owned selection, I guarantee it. So come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Negative trade equity financed a new loan, subject to lender approval.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
You hear me talk about Dog and Duck all the time, and there's no other place I'm going to watch my college and NFL than the Dog and Duck. They have 3 locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road. They have specials all football season long, like $12 pitchers of their own D2 brew, $5 pints of Sierra Nevada, weekly pick'em sheets with prizes, and the best wings in town, bar none. For all your football, college, and NFL, the Dog and Duck, Clements Ferry Road, Bell Hall, and Park West. Okay, what's going on today, huh? Anything to talk about?
All right, greetings and a good Monday afternoon. Greetings and a good Tuesday afternoon. Greetings and a good Wednesday afternoon, and welcome aboard. All right, greetings and a good Thursday afternoon. Greetings and a good Friday afternoon, and welcome aboard. All right, 124, final segment. It's going to be a long one on this Tuesday afternoon. Upgrade your tailgate. Fit the tables, chairs, tents, coolers, and more in the all-new Atlas out at Stokes Volkswagen, StokesVW.com. I know how much room they have because my wife bought one, and it's beautiful. Hers is used, though. It's 2019. Didn't matter. Still beautiful, and it has all the room, and I packed it yesterday, and they're in Virginia now, and it has a ton of room. As a matter of fact, how about this? Here's a nugget for you, stat boys. I got one for you. The Atlas has more interior room than the Tahoe.
Really?
Yes, sirree, Bobarooski.
Wow.
I didn't believe it when they told me, but I had to look it up. Sure enough. So check them out at StokesVW.com if you need a family ride to squeeze the kiddos in to go watch the Gamecocks or the Tigers or the Chanticleers or the Bulldogs or whoever you're going to go watch. It's Stokes Volkswagen, StokesVW.com. All right, as we bring Keith in here, Shane is, of course, meeting with the media. It's a pretty good story. He said a couple of years ago when Carolina upset the Dogs between the hedges, it's the same day Texas got beat by Oklahoma. And after the game, his family ran onto the field and said, the Gamecocks beat Georgia. He said, well, that's great, but we won too. So obviously having some fun with that one. But he went on to say, this is probably the most talented team in the history of Georgia football. That's a little scary. Hey, Keith.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Well, you know what? Win, lose, or draw, it's football season. So it's always going well, in my opinion. How about you, bud? Nice shirt.
Hey, yeah, no doubt. Great shirt. You too. So it was a great weekend. Got up early Saturday morning, drove to Dallas, and watched a game with the Dallas-Fort Worth Gamecocks at KSP Henderson. It was a Gamecock invasion. And had a great time up in Big D. Spent the night, had a great brunch with some great Gamecocks on Sunday, and then drove home, and I don't know if they're moving Kim Mulkey's trailer out of Waco to Baton Rouge or what, but in Waco, it just turned into a parking lot. And so, at any rate.
Here come the Kim Mulkey jokes again. Do you have a book of these, or do you just come up with them on your own? Just
come up with it on my own.
Well, Dawn will take care of business with her for you starting this coming season.
No doubt. Hey, it's great to be 2-0. And
yeah,
I've kind of learned I don't believe everything every coach says. So I don't know if you guys feel that way or not, but
why? Why not?
They all just spit out the truth. That's all they ever do. Exactly the truth.
Why would you not believe what coaches say, Keith? This segment's over. Yeah, look, let's. So I'm going to mix in a lot of what Shane is saying. I'm watching it here as well. And here,
I mean, we can't talk about Southern Cal first. I mean, they've only been trying to fire that guy for 4 years.
Go ahead. If you'd like to, have at it. Should they have fired him after 2 games?
Well, no, they shouldn't have fired him, but they wanted to fire him last year, and he won too much. And they wanted to fire him probably the year before that, and I think he wound up getting in the Pac-12 championship game, even with a bad record. And he's kind of like a fungus. Every time they think they're going to get rid of him, he just rises back up, and I think they just said it's unacceptable, and now, so let's see who in the alliance. Okay. So let's see, Southern Cal, how much is this really an alliance, or are they going to pick off somebody, like a James Franklin, or is Urban Meyer going to, have another aneurysm after about going 0-14? And then, say, oh, I'm a college coach, and, take over for the, Trojans, or, will it be Matt Campbell, or will they pluck the guy from Utah? I mean, I can tell you who it ain't going to be. It ain't going to be Herm Edwards. I can tell you that.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, it's not. Look, of that list that came out, Keith. This is my personal opinion. It's not going to be Tony Elliott. It's not going to be James Franklin.
Well, Tony Elliott's wife's not going to let him go that far away from home, number one. So you can definitely rule that out.
Where's she
from?
from?
Mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy.
Where's she from? Because he's
like,
from.
I think she thought Virginia Tech might be too far away from home.
Oh, so she's a North Carolina girl?
I think she's from down here, isn't she?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
How about Lincoln Riley? Because after Texas got taken behind the woodshed Saturday night by Pig Suey and the pit boss, Oklahoma may be having second thoughts as well. How about Lincoln Riley to Southern Cal? He's kind of a Hollywood kind of guy. I could see that. He's young. He's good looking.
They don't need to go anywhere. They just need to go right across the street and hire Chip Kelly for UCLA. Just get it over with.
That would be awesome.
No chance.
Just have him change.
Chip Kelly is almost as bad as Manny Diaz.
He
caught lightning in a bottle at Oregon. What's he done since? I mean, come on.
Well, I mean, don't ask Kirk Herbstreit that. They're going to win the Pac-12.
Yeah.
Not after Oregon just beat Ohio State. They're not. if that Oregon team shows up.
Cristobal just signed a huge contract with a huge buyout. He's not going anywhere.
No, I agree.
Buyouts are not going to be an issue. Southern Cal will throw all the money in the world wherever they can get.
They don't have Nike money, and a coach is not going to pay their buyout to go to another program that they're already kicking their ass and going into Los Angeles and getting whoever he wants.
Right.
Why does he need to go there with all that pressure?
He doesn't.
And he can just stay up there with the quack attack.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like Matt Campbell.
No.
Why would you leave Iowa State to go to a place where if you don't go undefeated, you could be fired?
Yeah, that's not the point. The point is when they figure out who it's going to be, once they go all the way down their list and whoever it's going to end up being, however far down the list they go, money's not an issue. Not at Southern Cal. It's just
I would agree in some cases, but not when you've got Nike money in Beaverton, Oregon, or wherever the hell the Nike headquarters is.
I don't think it matters. I don't think Mario Cristobal needs.
Yeah, he's not going. I mean,
Right.
he just signed that huge contract, and like I said, look at all the guys from LA on his roster. About one of the only guys he didn't get that he wanted is DJ Uiagalelei, who's at Clemson. He didn't go to Southern Cal. Southern Cal's not beating him on hardly anybody. They own LA.
I mean, of that list there, like from a financial standpoint, they're not getting like you. I don't care how much money Southern Cal has. They have a lot, and Snoop Dogg can give them however much more they need, or Will Ferrell. But they can find that money at Penn State. So if it ever came, like if James Franklin's like, man, I really want more money to stay, they'll be like, no problem. Here you go. Oregon can do the same thing.
I agree, but what if James Franklin gets housed by Ohio State again and looks out there and says, well, I'm a great recruiter and I can keep LA kids at home. And if I do that, I'm sitting on the throne.
Sure. There's always Franklin's name has come up a lot.
I'm going to tell you the name.
Look, it wouldn't surprise
Brian
me. It wouldn't
Kelly.
surprise me if Franklin went, because nothing would surprise me. But I don't think so. His name just happens to come up a lot. The fan base would have been ready for him to go last year, but I don't know if Southern Cal would have wanted him after last year. So I mean, all of that is who knows. It will come down to, this whole search will come down to who wants to go coach at Southern Cal, who wants to take on that responsibility, and then they can figure out what they're going to have to pay to get that guy there, because they're going to have to go down that list to find a guy that wants to make that move. I don't know how far. Maybe
Brian Kelly,
top guy, wants it. Who knows?
I still think it's Luke Fickell. I think you hit a home run if you get that guy.
I mean, he's a Midwest guy. I don't think he's an LA guy. And
sure, he hired Pete Carroll.
No, I mean, Pete ain't leaving. I'm telling you,
Spurrier.
Brian Kelly, unless Brian Kelly gets an NFL job, Brian Kelly is a name to watch at Southern Cal.
Lou Holtz. Fits right in. Kidding me?
I'd contribute to that fund if that happened.
He's perfect for LA.
Yeah. Okay.
Spurrier. If I was Steve, I'd be like, give me that job.
You just went off the rails. Spurrier would be a much better choice than Holtz.
Dude, if I was Steve, I'd be like, hey, just give me the job for 2 years. Just let me coach. I just want to call ball plays out here for 2 years. No. All right. Hey, do you want to talk about South Carolina or
sure.
skateboarding?
2-0.
Yeah. Gamecocks.
Undefeated. So they took care of business.
I think Mike Morgan said something earlier that I don't think has been really talked about much, and I think it should be. Of course, I'm not on the headset, so I can't necessarily be a firsthand account of anything or everything or one word that's ever said. But I watched rewatched some of the game yesterday. Clearly watched the whole game on Saturday, and Mike made a point to say he was paying attention to Coach Beamer and how he was kind of handling the situation, down 14, all those problems that kept happening with Carolina football. And he was just steady Eddie, calm, cool, and collected about everything. I want to add to that, though. This is not Muschamp. He's not on the headset going, here's what you need to do. You know, Marcus Satterfield's calling the plays. And I think that's a good thing. There's kinks to work out. There always is. I get it. But those are definitely two takeaways, and here they are. They're 2-0.
I mean, I think, South Carolina had 4 games they couldn't afford to lose. Saturday was one of them, in spite of the fact that they gave up a big play on the first play of the game, in spite of the fact, Colonel Zebulon Nolan threw an interception. DeKarian Joyner, who was clearly down, was called for a fumble, so they got a 13-yard touchdown drive. It was 14-0, and they were driving, and the play of the year happened for South Carolina when, Clayton White, who has got an A+ through 2 games, no doubt about it. Yeah. They shifted their front. They moved the linebacker out to the defensive end. They put Aaron Sterling, just like Brad Lawing used to do, right over the center, about 4 yards off the ball, and just shot him through the A gap. Forced Holton Ahlers, who was not the second coming of Peyton Manning like Shane Beamer said he was, to throw early, went off the guy's shoulder, and Damani Staley took it to the house, and that changed the complete momentum of the game, because it could have been 17 or 21-0 at halftime, and I just don't know if they come back from that.
I thought it would be 21-0, just the way that it was trending, but it wasn't, and that's 2 straight games with a pick 6. I'm with you on the Clayton White thing. Those numbers aren't going to sustain themselves all year, Keith. We all know that, and it's going to start this weekend with Georgia. But if this defense continues to play well, continues to get better, hopefully stay healthy and things like that, there's going to be quite a few folks knocking on the door of Shane Beamer come late November, early December saying, hey, can we talk to Clayton White about our job? And hopefully they don't open it.
Well, I mean, it's a long season. I mean, just like I think we didn't find out a whole lot about South Carolina the first game of the season. We are not going to find a whole lot out about the team Saturday, in my opinion.
Well, what do we know? What do we know right now?
I mean, I think we know that Will Muschamp left some great talent on the defensive line. They supplemented that in the portal with Jordan Strong, who's clearly shown he's a SEC caliber player, at least through 2 weeks. He looks the part. And, Josh Vann has played well the first 2 games. Can he do it against SEC competition? And I think, that's a situation you get in. I mean, look, offensively, and I want to make a point on this for Marcus Satterfield. One, this is a guy that really has not called plays as an offensive coordinator since about 2015. Okay. He was a head coach for 2 years. Maybe he called his own plays at Tennessee Tech. Then he coached tight ends and offensive line. Okay. Then he comes to South Carolina and they devise this offensive system. And then the second practice in pads, the quarterback they designed it for gets his foot stepped on. I'm still not sure why that happened or how that happened. And so he doesn't have him, and they're very limited still at wide receiver. I mean, Jalen Brooks has 1 catch in 2 games. And you had to bring a GA out of retirement to stick him at quarterback. And it's just less than ideal. And so teams are stacking the box, just like they were going to stack the box, regardless of who the play caller was. And I went back yesterday and watched the game, rewatched the game. I paused it before every play to look at the formation and count the box. And most of the time, South Carolina was either a 7, 8, or almost a 9-man box they were facing.
Mm-hmm.
And they still kept trying to run it up the middle. And, 3 receivers to one side and only 2 defenders out there, or 2 receivers to one side and 1 defender out there, and still 7 or 8 in the box. You got to throw it out quick to where you got the advantage. And I mean, I just think you can't try to hand it off inside zone up the middle with Zeb Nolan because he can't run. Can you do it with Luke Doty? Probably so, because Luke Doty can run. And we all know that's part of the offense when Luke Doty gets healthy that they don't have right now. But I think Marcus Satterfield's struggling to find a rhythm and a flow as a play caller. And, fortunately they did it late and they said, hey, we've been running up inside the whole game. Let's run outside. And it worked. But now, when you put Juju McDowell in there, you got to run something other than the outside zone because they say, hey, 21's in, they're running outside.
Yeah,
he's got to find a better flow and a better rhythm. And Zeb Nolan's got to get it closer to wide open receivers than like 24 feet, like 8 yards. That's longer than an NBA 3-point field goal attempt. I want you to think about that. He missed guys by that much, like standing behind the 3-point line in the NBA to the baseline. That's how far he was missing some throws.
Yeah, I'm not making an excuse for anybody here. I just think that it is what it is right now. I mean, I really do. I mean, we were talking to Perry about this yesterday. I don't think there's any I think everybody understands specifically in the first half, and then I know of a few instances early in the second half, there was just some bad throws. I mean, it was just bad. It wasn't good. And I was talking to Michael. I was with Flint on Saturday, and I said, man, I feel like you could go out there and make these throws, and you haven't played quarterback in how long? 15 years or more. And he said, yeah, I probably could, but it's going to be a little bit different when you're out there and people running at you and things like that. So I hear everybody. I'm not disagreeing. I agree with what everybody's saying. Zeb Nolan ain't the answer, but right now he's the only option if you have multiple choice, because clearly Jason Brown ain't it, because he would have played and he didn't play.
I thought somebody else should have played. And I didn't think playing DeCarrion Joyner for his first series backed up at your own 12-yard line was really, great strategy.
But I don't know how you play anybody else, Keith. I don't know if you can't. That kid is not ready because this staff would have played him. And I have that on firsthand account from in the program. He ain't ready.
And he's not good. It.
And I think we're all figuring out now why he was at St. Francis. I hate to say that. I think he's a really good athlete. But he's not good. And Gauthier's not ready. And so I think this is the hand you're dealt right now.
Neither is Luke Doty.
Yeah, Luke's he's not ready to go, I don't think. I don't know. Maybe he will be. Who knows?
I don't think he's ready. I don't think he'll be 100% on Saturday.
Probably
That's
not.
Just me. I'm all behind Shane Beamer. Here's the positives to me you have to take from this game. Number one, we all talked about him establishing the culture and the positive energy and the positive culture, playing for your teammates, playing, for we instead of me, all of that stuff. What was going to happen when adversity hit? Well, adversity hit early and often, early Saturday afternoon in Greenville, North Carolina, and they didn't give up. And the defense, quite frankly, did what they should to a non-SEC opponent. They dominated them. East Carolina had one sustained drive the entire game, and almost half of that, over half of that, was on a run by their slow quarterback when they caught Carolina in man coverage and everybody had their back turned.
Yeah. Yeah, so how many total yards they have? I can't remember.
It was like 260-something. So they had 75 on a trick play that was the best thrown ball of the day, by the way. It wasn't even close.
That's great.
By Snead.
Yeah.
And they had a 34-yard run by Ehlers. But, South Carolina held them to 10 yards or less on 8 of their possessions.
Yeah.
Clayton White's team, they just kept doing it. You had the touchdown fumbled through the end zone. You got to protect the ball, got to have it high and tight.
Yeah.
They overcame Zeb Nolan missing guys by more than a 3-point field goal. And then, they got the play before half, and then they got the big kick return, and they got the, big play to Josh Vann down the sideline. And I thought his touchdown should have not been overturned because he clearly never lost possession. The ball can move as long as you don't lose control of it. He always had control of that ball. I just don't see how you overturn that, just like I don't see how you don't call Takarian Joyner down when his whole one side of his body hit the ground and then the guy ripped it out. They overcame all of that and were able to find a way to get a win. And just like Shane Beamer said, they kicked a field goal to tie it. They forced a 3-and-out, and they got the ball back with 4:54 to go. And they did what they had to do to drive the ball down the field. And East Carolina never touched it again, and they kicked the game winner.
Yeah, that was huge there. And I'll tell you, in addition to that, we've been watching this team struggle for a few years under Coach Muschamp, a defensive guy. Carolina's first in the country right now in third down percentage on the defensive side of the football. Of course, one of those was the strange 3rd and 14 situation that happened the other day. But at the end of the day, they are, I think, have given up 2 of 19.
Well, that was fourth down. So they were 2 of 16, and then
that was fourth down. Yeah, so that didn't even matter.
It was fourth down.
So they're 2 of 19. 2 of 19, I think, have been converted against the Gamecock defense.
No, Eastern Illinois was like 0 for
10.
Yeah, so that'd be 2 for 26 if it was 0 for 10.
So East Carolina was 2 for 16?
2 for 16.
Okay, so 2 for 26. Okay, well, then that equates to 8%. Whatever 8% is. Who cares? It's 8%. It's unbelievable. And, again, those numbers, when you play Georgia and Kentucky, that changes. But I guess the point that I'm making, though, is, gosh, Darren, you and I sat here and did this a lot last year in this show, watching them play teams that weren't as good as them last year and the year before. La Tech, when Skip Holtz brought his team to town, and when Muschamp was there a few years ago, Parker White had to kick a field goal to win it. Third down defense wasn't very good. Like there are some signs in this defense early. 2 teams that you're better than. Totally understand it. I get it. But there are some signs early that lead you to believe that those guys are pretty good regardless of competition. Like there are certain numbers that you can look at on defense and figure out quickly whether somebody's pretty talented and pretty good on that side of the football or not. And a lot of those trends are pretty positive pretty early for Carolina. That's going to give them a chance in maybe some games that people don't think they have much of a chance in. They got to score, but it's going to give them a chance.
I'll tell you what impresses me most about the Gamecocks defense. It's not the numbers because, like you said, it's Eastern Illinois and it's ECU. You should dominate them like that. What impresses me the most, what should theoretically carry over, the way they're moving. They're moving with a freedom about them and a speed, not just like I'm fast running, but a unit moving together at a certain speed that was not happening last year.
You're talking about the defense specifically?
Specifically, yes. I'm not talking about I'm talking
and tackling.
Yes. So that's what impressed me. So that how does it carry over when you're playing guys your size, when you're playing guys your speed? I don't know, but that to me is the best sign of the defense so far.
Yeah, they're tackling, Keith.
No, I agree. I mean, you've had great tackling. No egregious. I mean, I can't remember in 2 weeks really a bad missed tackle. And I agree with what Darren says. A great observation is they are playing faster. They're playing sure of themselves. They're playing football. They're not thinking. They're just playing. They have a freedom. And, I think you have to credit Clayton White for not having this wildly complex NFL defense that he's going to run come hell or high water. Players need to be able to play free. And, you see it from Brad Johnson, 9 tackles. You see it, the talent up front. I mean, on that last drive, East Carolina's last possession, you had Jordan Strong, Boogie Huntley, and Tonka Hemingway in there with Aaron Sterling on the front 4.
Yep.
And they were getting it done. I mean,
tells you a lot.
The secondary play, Darius Rush through 2 weeks. I mean, it's encouraging, but the season starts September 25th now. I mean, when you get Kentucky, Tennessee, Troy, Vanderbilt, I think that's 4
Kentucky, Troy, Tennessee, Vanderbilt in that order.
Yeah, so you get those 4 teams.
And three of those 4 at home, by the way.
That's the stretch that's really going to define this season for South Carolina. And that's when we'll really find out how good this team is. Is it just barely better than a team that got housed by Appalachian State, or do they continue to improve? Do you get Luke Doty back? Can you keep Josh Vann and Jaheim Bell from both running and chasing after the same ball week after week?
How many times has that happened? 3 times? Isn't that 3 times it's happened in 2 games?
Yeah. I mean, you got to get the ball to Jaheim Bell. I mean, like, if you're going to run RPO, you're counting players in the box. I know Zeb Nolan's smart enough to be able to count to 5, 6, 7, 8 and where to go, but you can't throw the same ball 2 series in a row to the same guy. And honestly, the second one should have been intercepted. It bounced right through the guy's chest and off of another teammate.
Yeah.
And the penalties, Cam Smith woofing, you can't have that. You can't have, after Darius Rush's interception at the 43. Okay, you're at the 43, you're already almost at midfield, and you get a dead ball, 15-yard penalty for shoving or woofing or whatever it was on your sideline, and it puts you back to the 28-yard line. When you play at Tennessee, when you play at Missouri, when you play Kentucky, and even Troy, you just can't keep beating yourself with penalties, extending drives with an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, or costing yourself after 15 yards after you make a turnover.
Yeah, there's, those type conversations are interesting to have because you're right. Like in teams like Carolina, they're not good enough necessarily to they overcame it in this game. It's not going to happen in the SEC. Maybe against Vanderbilt, but you're not good enough to overcome that in those games. But the challenge of being a coach, if you're Shane or Clayton or whoever, and I'm speaking now specifically to Cam Smith, is like same thing with Swearinger. You had to let them be them, but try to manage it, because you can't just be a guy that comes and bops them on the head and says you can't do that, because those guys feel like you're taking who they are away from them. So how do you make them comprehend how to manage that the energy, which was stupid energy on Saturday, don't get me wrong, but that's part of being a coach, is making sure these guys can still exude all that energy but not cost you 15 yards to do it, at least especially when you're down. If you're Swearinger in the Clemson game,
I hope he's not nearly Cam Smith. I hope he's not nearly as bad as Swearinger was. I mean, good Lord.
Yeah, DJ, look.
Swearinger, he had the reason to have the swag because he was playing on 11-win teams, okay? Cam Smith, you played on a 2-win team. You're playing East Carolina. I mean, I would tell him, the next time you do that, you just might as well go into the locker room and take your uniform off and put your street clothes back on, and you can rest for a while. I mean, that's like just inexcusable.
It is. I like how Shane handled it, though. He yanked him out of the game. He didn't play. He played in the second half. I thought he made his point. By the way, quick note on Swearinger. Everybody talks about the Clemson 15 yards.
Arkansas.
He got 45 penalty yards in about 16 seconds in the Arkansas game. That was the best Swearinger ever, especially when he threw the football out of the north end zone at Williams-Brice Stadium. So, all right, Keith, final quick thoughts here. We got a hard out coming up at 1:59. Darren's music will play, but we do have Georgia this weekend, and I agree with Shane Beamer. Look, are they? He didn't say this, but I'm saying it. Like, are they expected to win? No. Are they more likely going to lose? Yeah, but this team has to ignore that, and they got to go out there and play like they can win the game. And hopefully fans think that. 2 years ago, it was the largest point spread ever in the history of this series. Carolina won the game. Not predicting that's going to happen this year. Last 11 years since the turn of the decade, 2010. Georgia leads it slim, 6-5 in this series. So what's important for Carolina this weekend, Keith? It not necessarily from a win-loss standpoint. Yeah, the most important thing is win the game if you can. But what is important with the stretch? I asked Mike Morgan the same question earlier. You got Kentucky, Troy, Tennessee, and Vanderbilt. That's a winnable stretch of games for the Gamecocks. What is important this weekend?
I think this weekend is just to continue to compete, to battle, to fight, to show some offensive creativity, and to still be solid defensively. Yeah, you're not going to hold Georgia to 0 for 10 or 2 for 16 on third down. I mean, last year, hell, you barely ever got to third down.
True.
Get to third down. Don't, give up a bunch of big plays and look like you belong on the field with Georgia. Compete. Don't be intimidated. Don't roll over. Don't beat yourself. Force Georgia to beat you and give it your best shot.
Yeah.
Try to get it to the second half and see what happens.
Yeah, and stay healthy.
If it's 38-0 at halftime, maybe, if Kirby puts in the threes, maybe I'm rolling out Luke Doty then. I'm certainly not rolling him out for his first snaps of the season against probably the best defense in college football. I'm just not doing it.
By the numbers, they're number one. Gamecocks are number 3.
They've signed more 5-star players at Georgia than anybody else in the country the last 4 years.
Yeah, Shane said today, this is the most talented team that Georgia's ever had in the history of their program. We'll see.
And they'll probably still go 10-2, or they'll get not into the college football playoff.
I don't know. They're dropping like flies around them, Keith. 10-2 this year might get you into the college football playoff, depending on what continues to happen in the sport. All right, Locked on the Gamecocks podcast. What's coming up? I know you got Worldwide Wednesday tomorrow, but what's going on the rest of the week?
So we got JC on Thursday after he recovers from the JC Power Hour tomorrow, and then on Friday, we got Ben Portnoy from Go Gamecocks and the state. We'll be doing our, drive around the SEC, our preview, our keys to the game. By the way, Gamecocks went over on Keith's keys to the game last week, and they still won. Ofer.
It's a recipe for success.
Must be. I'm just telling you, the funniest one was see through the purple haze. Don't give up a big trick play. They're going to throw everything at you, and what happens? First play of the game.
Yeah, everybody was surprised by that.
Win the turnover battle. No, not going to do that. Get off to a great start. No, not going to do that.
They're going to need to do all of that this weekend to have a chance over there between the hedges in Athens, Georgia. Keith, we'll let you run on that note as always. Yeah, extended time on a Tuesday. Thank you so much, my friend.
All right, Garnet Black Town Hall tonight, guys. Ooh. Have a great rest of the day.
Awesome. There you go. Keith Allsep, host of the Locked on the Gamecocks podcast. By the way, it's a great day on the National Day calendar. It is National Parents' Day off, which it is for me because my wife
totally
and children are out of town.
Exactly what it is for you.
It's National Cream-Filled Donut Day. It's National Virginia Day.
For lovers.
Yeah. It's National Sober Day. Congratulations to all of you who have achieved that in your lifetime. That is fantastic. And it's National Eat a Hoagie Day.
Yes, except it's called a sub. But other than that, I'm all aboard.
Thank you. I agree. But we understand what they're saying. All right, thanks to Mike and Keith and Darren and all of you. Have a terrific Tuesday afternoon. JC Sherbert for a full hour tomorrow. Can't wait for that. Right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen and very proudly presented by Motley Rice. We'll see you then.